Aloha nerds, and welcome back to the TheSalawag's Why It's Great Gut Reaction. I'm your host, the Salawag, and on this show I talk about stuff I recently watched and why I thought it was cool. This is not the typical Why It's Great show where I do some homework and try to be educational. I am just literally reacting from the gut and seeing how it goes. So this weekend I watched a few movies. One of them was American Graffiti, George Lucas's first film. If you don't know the name of George Lucas, you may know the name Star Wars. George Lucas is the original writer and director of the Star Wars series. I'm going to do a special Star Wars video sometime from now, so I think it's appropriate to start off with his first attempt at filmmaking, his first film. Well, actually, he did make a film before this called TX something 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 something, but his first big hit was American Graffiti, and it was the film that he did right after TX something 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 something. And oh, my fan's on. So American Graffiti stars young Ron Howard, and he's called Ronnie Howard in the credits. I thought that was awesome. It stars also Richard Dreyfuss and a bunch of other people that I should know. And Harrison Ford is also in this movie, where he plays, as one of the characters calls him, an idiot. Yeah, what a great movie. It's, George Lucas is also one of the co-writers of this movie. I believe he created the story with a couple other writers, and they put it all together. However they put it together, I don't know. But it's a really good movie. Watching it is an interesting process, because this movie essentially takes place in one night, and it's about the last night for Ron Howard and Richard Dreyfuss before they're supposed to fly off to college. So they've graduated high school, they've had their last summer with all of their friends from high school, and these two characters are about to fly to New York or to the East Coast somewhere to go to college, and they're essentially trying to party one last time. And even Ron Howard has a girlfriend in this movie, and the movie's building to this dance that they want to go to, and they might hang out afterward. But at the same time, there's Richard Dreyfuss, who doesn't have a girlfriend, but he sees this beautiful woman as they're on the road to the dance, and he's so struck by her. And not only that, but she looks back at him and mouths, "I love you." There's an instant connection that's really beautiful. But what I like is that there's, in contrast to that, because any good story is about characters, and any good character has conflict. One of the phrases that many of my great teachers said at Academy of Art University was story is character, character is conflict. And what that means is a character, in order to have a story, must have a central conflict or a central concern that they need to work out throughout the course of that story. That is what a story is. A story is not anything else. And so we essentially have two main characters with a bunch of side characters, and everyone kind of has an adventure, but we're introduced to them all at one place. Now this is where George Lucas and company really sing, because they really understood, how do we introduce characters from a story structure standpoint. All the characters meet up at this little local diner restaurant where everyone usually eats, and there's girl waitresses who are rolling around in roller skates to deliver food to people. It's a really fun, happening kind of place, and that's where our story really starts, where we meet all the characters in the movie, and they're all kind of established against each other. Ron Howard is sitting here saying to his girlfriend, since I'm flying away, I think we should talk about something important. And she's excited. She thinks maybe he's going to invite him, or he's going to say something very romantic and powerful. But instead what he says is, I think we should be comfortable with seeing other people. And she's heartbroken, but she doesn't say it. She just takes it inward and tries to enjoy the moment for whatever she can. And this starts off their conflict, and also Ron Howard's character's conflict throughout the movie. That he is going to fly away, that he you know, we don't know at this point what their relationship is. We know that from her reaction to him saying, I want to talk to you about something important, and her excitement, she thinks it might be something important in a romantic sense. And it is, but not the way she wants it to go. But we kind of get, okay, is this guy a player? What kind of guy is this? We don't really understand that yet. But we do get right away what their problem is going to be for the rest of the movie. And they are working through the whole movie. When they get to the dance later, they are the king and queen of the dance, and they have to dance together right after having this conversation. And they have the whole time they're in the dance, they are having the small, quiet argument with each other. And she's crying in his arms, and what if you were far away, you might think this was a beautiful romantic moment, the way it all sort of physically happens. But being up close, you know that this is actually a lot more than that. A lot more is going on here. And on the flip side, we have Richard Dreyfuss, who is thinking about this girl that he saw in a car, who he saw in another car while he was riding in the backseat of their car. And he's walking through the dance, seeing everyone dance, and he's having this incredible nostalgic moment. And he meets up with a teacher who is proud of him. You see, this is a guy who's friends with the teachers. He's kind of cool with everybody, kind of a good guy. And he's got a little pudge on him. And it reminds me a lot of me in high school, actually. The guy who's, I did not have a license and was friends with the teachers and is having this nostalgic experience. And what's interesting is, he's conflicted about leaving, whereas Ron Howard in the beginning of the story is not conflicted about leaving. And by the way, spoiler alerts, I'm spoiling this whole frickin' movie. But as we follow his story, these characters all separate after this dance. And this movie is really about what happens to them when they separate, because they're about to come back all together at the very end of the movie to say their final goodbyes at the airport. But this whole night they go on all these separate adventures. Ron Howard actually has a breakup with his girlfriend, and some girls do try to sort of pull him into the fun that he thought he wanted. And we learn more about his actual relationship with the girlfriend from the girlfriend when they conflict later. And it turns out Ron Howard was totally terrified to date and didn't even try to kiss her because he was just so scared of everything. And so there's this massive irony here. This is a guy who's so sure of what he wants. He wants to go off to the East Coast and have all the fun that he wants to have and feel guilt-free about it. But in reality, he's not actually the kind of guy who even tries that hard no matter how much he wants something. And on the other hand, you got this guy, Richard Dreyfuss, who's so conflicted about leaving home because he loves everything here. He loves all of his friends. But he gets caught up with a bunch of gangsters, little teenage thugs. And he offends them by sitting on one of their friends' cars, and so they take him on a little ride, and he assumes he's going to get killed or something's going to happen. They end up pulling him into all these different little criminal hijinks, and it actually is a fun story. In many ways, American Graffiti is the original Superbad, or maybe there was one before this, I don't know. But this movie reminded me so much of Superbad. It felt like a 50s Superbad. This is what kids were like in the 50s, or this is what kids like this were like in the 50s. And this movie's a party. It's fun seeing what people get up to, and you see, there's these people were made of sterner stuff. Even the goofiest nerd was trying his hardest to get a girl, and actually had his own great adventure and got into fights and stuff. And it's really, I don't know, it's such an engaging and live movie where you feel like people are really living and they're really experiencing what their experiences. No one has a cell phone in their hand. No one's distracted from each other. This is about communication and getting with someone and accomplishing something. What's great about Richard Dreyfuss's character is that he keeps running into all these people who just love him. And they're so excited for him. He's got this scholarship to this college in the East Coast. and it's like the whole town has these hopes and dreams for him. And I relate to that a lot too, because I got a scholarship to Academy of Art University, and everyone I knew was so excited for me and had all these hopes and dreams for me. But I made, it's like American Graffiti is like that feeling of high school, of hope, of all the future is laid out before you and everything will be great. But kind of like with what happens with Ron Howard, there's always that human error where you stumble and you fall and you don't fight or you don't do the right thing, and you kind of have to deal with the consequences of that. So it's kind of interesting. You have one guy trying to get the girl, one guy has the girl, and this is what's happening to them. Watching American Graffiti was this weird experience of like, wow, this is kind of what I used to be around. And at the same time, I've kind of related to both characters, both Ron Howard's character and Richard Dreyfuss's character, for different reasons. And it was just really exciting. And I don't know, I like when movies kind of make you feel like you could be those people. I don't really want to spoil this movie. If you love Star Wars, but if you also love Superbad, check out American Graffiti. It's a really great movie. Speaking of Star Wars, what's great about watching American Graffiti is you can kind of see the sort of seeds of some of the Star Wars characters as well. You can sort of see, I think, good films or great films, you can tell the character of the filmmakers that made them by the character. You can tell the character of the filmmakers that made the movie based on the characters who are in the movie. And you kind of see these parallels. While Harrison Ford in this movie, in American Graffiti, is sort of a side character, sort of more of a foil for this sort of tough guy, this tough #1 racer in the town. Our #1 racer is one of the friends of Richard Dreyfuss and Ron Howard. And you can kind of see in this character a toughness, a sort of experience. He gets introduced to this girl who is underage, not a child, but she's at least 16, 15, 16. He's 18, and she jumps in his car and wants to go on an adventure with him, and he's like, I don't want you in my car. He's smart. He's not trying to get himself in trouble here. But they end up striking up a friendship out of this little adventure. And, out of this more innocent character with this more experienced kind of tough guy, you kind of see, that clash of a character who doesn't want this other character there. And ironically, that character just wants nothing but to be there. And we learn her story, the young character played by young Mackenzie Phillips, who I grew up with So Weird. She was the mom in So Weird. Love that show. Gotta give hats off to Mackenzie Phillips and all those people. But here she is. She's a kid. She's 16 years old, presumably. I don't really know. They never say in the movie. Who just is so excited to be out. This is her first night out. She's never been allowed out. And this is the tough guy who's always been out. And sort of they're clashing with her just wanting to be there. You see what this guy's character is, that he wants to be a good guy. He's not trying to be a creep who took out some young girl. He does try to get her to get out of his car. But he ends up trying to protect her later when she eventually does leave the car, and you see this other car of creepy guys following her and chasing her. And that's what's interesting about this movie as well, is that there's some real world honesty with sort of catcalling and all that stuff. Long before Me Too, American Graffiti is sort of being very honest and straightforward that this kind of behavior is weird and uncomfortable for women, and they don't want to be treated like that. And no woman responds to these catcalls except for one, who responds to it from the nerdy guy I mentioned earlier. There's a nerdy guy who's out there trying to get a girl, and he catcalls a girl, but she actually does respond because she likes his car. And for whatever reason, the story goes from there. I actually don't want to spoil it. It's the best story in the whole movie. But yeah, so it's really fun seeing that you know, this tough guy, racer, #1 racer guy, because I don't remember his name, I'm sorry. Sorry, and I didn't get the actor's name, that's why this is a gut reaction, I don't know anything. But it's amazing seeing this guy. He has all the seeds of Harrison Ford's character Han Solo in Star Wars, because there's a character who has a good heart, but it is buried underneath the tough, gruff, you know, I know what to do kind of guy that he is. So there's the seeds of that there. And Richard Dreyfuss, his innocence, you can kind of see that in Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker. So he does have these consistent sort of characters with these wants that they can't have, or things that they have that they don't want, or they don't think they want. And by movie's end, you know, a really good story plays with that from beginning to end. Plays with the character wanting something and then getting what they want and finding out that they don't, either they don't want it or it's what they always wanted, whatever it is the case may be, or they do want it, they always want it, they just can't have it. You know, is that kind of interplay makes characters interesting and shows you who characters are. So yeah, so that's my gut reaction on American Graffiti. Really great flick. You can see the seeds of the great filmmaker that George Lucas is. And, you know, just hats off to George Lucas and company. I should be listing off all the names, but it's a gut reaction. I don't do homework on gut reactions. I just saw the movie and wanted to tell you it was good. So, yeah, if you're bored and looking for something to watch, or even if you're not bored and you want to watch something that you haven't seen before, check out American Graffiti. And if you, for some reason, like this and want more of this, I feel disgusting saying subscribe. You don't gotta subscribe to me. But maybe look me up sometime. Maybe follow #Salawag's why it's great on Instagram. Or #Salawag clip of the week. Maybe. Maybe. Yeah.